Good morning, everyone. My name is Cooley. I'm the Targeted Outreach Director for the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as DFPI. Thank you for joining the webinar today. Let's give everyone, I know it's right at 10 o'clock, let's get everyone another 2 minutes to jump in. So thank you for your patience as we wait for more people to jump in, and we'll get the webinar started real quickly. 2 minutes. Thank you for your patience. Okay, let's get started. Again, hello and welcome to the webinar, everyone. My name is Cooley. I'm the Targeted Outreach Director for the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as DFPI. We want to throw out a big special thank you to Assemblywoman Connie Petrie Norris for partnering with us on this webinar. Today's webinar, our financial educational webinar topic is protecting yourself from identity theft. A really great webinar, a lot of great information. Let's just go ahead and get started. So a little bit of housekeeping. Your cameras and microphones have been turned off for the duration of this webinar, but if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to submit it into the Zoom's Q&A feature. There is a dedicated time at the very end where I will be answering your questions live. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the presenters. They do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the DFPI. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not financial or legal advice. And the DFPI does not assume responsibility for the completeness of the information presented in this presentation. Basically speaking, this is the most up-to-date information as of this presentation. Of course, we're recording this webinar. We will be publishing it to our YouTube channel, and we will be making the slides available as well. And as you know, things change as time goes on. So some of the things that we share right now may not be relevant in a year, 2 years from now. So again, the information presented in the presentation is the most up-to-date as of this moment. For more information, you could always visit our website, dfpi.ca.gov. And then we do have an email, which you're more than welcome to email us with questions, comments, if you want copies of this slide. Our email is outreach@dfpi.ca.gov. Okay, with that, again, big special thank you to Assemblywoman Connie Petrie Norris for partnering with us on this webinar. And with that, I'd like to hand it off to her District Director, Michael Toe, who has a couple remarks to share.
Thanks so much. Welcome, everyone. We appreciate you joining this morning for this informative webinar. On behalf of Assemblywoman Connie Petrie Norris, we want to welcome you. Thank you for participating. Many of you are constituents, and some of you may be joining us from other parts of California, but welcome to all of you, particularly those from Costa Mesa, Irvine, and Tustin in the 73rd District. This is the third in a series of webinars that we have partnered with DFPI on. In May, we had one on fraud prevention. Last month on AI scams, and that was available to folks statewide. And then today on ID theft. And during the fall, we're hoping to plan a series of senior scam stopper seminars, in-person seminars that we hold regularly each year in each of our communities. So we hope to be sharing information with you about those upcoming seminars in Costa Mesa, Tustin, and Irvine during the fall, perhaps some additional webinars. Ultimately, we just want to provide you with the information that you need to protect your identity, to protect you from becoming a victim of fraud, and learning about the new ways that criminals are trying to scam you out of your money, out of your identity. So very grateful for the partnership with DFPI. If you need additional information, our website link, which has senior scam stopper resources, is there, including information from DFPI and other state agencies. If we can ever be of assistance with state-related matters, not necessarily things covered here, contact us in our district office in Irvine or visit our website, and we have a contact form there. So thank you all for joining, and thank you to DFPI. We really appreciate the partnership.
Thank you, Michael. And again, the big special thank you to the Assemblywoman for helping us, partnering with us on our webinars. Okay, with that, I do want to quickly talk about the DFPI. Who are we? What is our role? What do we do? The DFPI is California's financial regulator. Our central purpose is to maintain a fair, healthy, and trusted financial marketplace for all Californians. We do this through regulating and enforcement of a variety of financial services, products, and professionals in the state. We also provide a number of free presentations, in-person and virtual webinars just like these, throughout California to inform and protect consumers and to prevent them from falling prey to frauds and scams. If you would like more information, we have a dedicated section on our website just for consumers, where we publish consumer alerts, news, articles, financial education topics, and of course, a list of all the different events that we do. The link is dfpi.ca.gov/consumers. Okay. Oh, one more plug before we jump into the webinar topic today. We are providing free online financial education. This is completely open to anyone and everyone to register for. In this online financial course, there's a lot of different modules. So there's modules on like budgeting, investing, retirement planning, paying for college, building credits, buying a house, estate planning. So please feel free to jump onto this learning platform. Again, just need an email address to register, and then you can access all of these different modules. The link to that is dfpi.ca.gov/learn. Okay. So let's talk about identity theft. What is identity theft? Identity theft occurs when someone uses your personal identifying information without your permission, typically to impersonate you, to claim your benefits, to access your financial information, and sometimes to commit fraud or other financial crimes. So let's talk about I wanted to share some identity theft statistics from last year, because they're still compiling, they're still gathering this year's. So the FTC in 2024 logged more than 1.1 million identity theft reports. The most common form of identity theft was hijacked and newly opened credit card accounts, with more than about almost 500,000 complaints. Other categories of identity theft include, creating or registering for loan or leases, trying to open new bank accounts, employment or tax-related identity theft, phone utilities, and government document-based benefits. So basically, identity theft, trying to access those benefits, or again, trying to open up accounts in the victims' names. The most widely used method of identity theft was email, with more than 300,000 reports that led to financial losses of about $600 per victim. So basically speaking, individuals' information was taken by email or was shared over email. Phone calls was the second most widely used method, with more than, about almost 300,000 cases. However, phone calls had the highest financial loss per victim at about $1,500 per case. So two different ways that identity thieves were there's a lot of different ways identity thieves were contacting and stealing people's information. The most widely used was email, and then the follow up to that is phone calls, the second most widely used method. So, oh, and here's the source. It's from Experian, which is one of the credit bureaus. So common information that identity thieves target or try to steal, your contact information is probably the easiest and most, I don't want to say most important, but it's one of the ways that they can get it's one of the easiest information they can get from you, and also one of the easiest things that can allows them to continue to contact you, right? So obviously your name, your address, email, phone numbers, any way that they could try to get in contact with you could lead to more ways they can collect more information, right? Because once they have your address, once they have your email or your phone number, they're going to start asking for things like your social security number, your driver's license number, financial account numbers, right? Medical insurance, other pins and passwords that you might have. So again, your contact information is kind of a gateway, and then from there they could use all sorts of different types of scams to try to access these other pieces of information. And you may have other benefit information, right? Things like your pension, your retirements, 401ks, that kind of a thing they're trying to get access to. And again, that gateway, that where it really starts is where if they have your contact information, and that can come from something like your driver's license, right? Or mail. If you're a victim of mail theft, they now have your address. They have your name. So let's talk about methods that identity thieves use to steal your identity, right? And by the way, this is not, well, the biggest one, by the way, is imposter and phishing scams. This was part of the FTC's 2024 report. By far, the largest way that identity thieves was stealing people's information, and then using that information to do identity theft is through imposter and phishing scams. So that's like fake emails, messages, solicitations, calls, text messages, messaging through Facebook or other apps. So, and this is where they could, scammers are or identity thieves act like officials, right? Or they're acting like the utility company, or they're posing as your bank, and they want your credentials, and then they use that to again pose as you to access your other information. Data breaches was the second most way that identity thieves were able to steal someone's identity and use it to impersonate individuals or gather their information. There's also physical theft. So that's things like stolen wallets, purses, stolen mail, or even through trash, right? Individuals who just, if you have some kind of information, let's say you're doing your taxes and you're just throwing away some of your receipts or some other information, identity thieves could go through the trash and pick up some of the information to, again, try to pose as you. Skimming devices. So skimming devices is basically just an electronic device that scammers put over like ATMs or gas pumps or sale terminals. And whenever someone slides their credit card, sometimes when they tap their credit card, it captures that information off of those cards. And again, they can use that credit card information other ways of unsecured Wi-Fi. If you're on if you're traveling somewhere, even at a hotel, maybe at a restaurant, and you're using the Wi-Fi, that gives scammers, identity thieves, hackers, the ability to access your computer and then, of course, steal your information. Oversharing information is another one. Sometimes people don't think about this. If you're sharing too much information on social media, mostly social media, that's where hackers or even scammers use artificial intelligence to gather a lot of information about who you are, where you live, what you do, and then they could use this information to either social engineer, in other words, try to scam you, or they could use it to try to pose as you. All right. Now let's talk about common methods that identity thieves use your identity. So one of the big ones is they open new credit card accounts or loans in your name. It doesn't really take too much, right? Once they have your social security number, once they have your name and address, they could pose as you and try to open up a credit card account, draw all the money out, or open up a loan and draw all the money out in your name. They could make fraudulent withdrawals from your bank or other financial accounts. Again, if they have access to your accounts in many different ways, right? Whether it's your password, or if they were able to get into your account somehow, they can again transfer all that money from your financial accounts. They could use existing credit cards, right? If you had your wallet stolen, I have a whole story about that I'll share later. So if you had your wallet stolen, they could use your credit cards not just to as for transactions, but they could use your credit cards to access other open up accounts, right? Because sometimes some accounts they need a credit card to open up. So that's one way they use your identity. They could obtain medical services or prescription drugs in your name, right? Especially again, if you had your wallet or purse stolen and you have your medical cards in there, they could try to use those to again obtain drugs or medical services. They could file a fraudulent tax return. That's a big one with the IRS, right? But once they have your name, social security number, they could make up whatever tax return they want, try to file it in your name and get a tax return for themselves. They could try to get a job using your identity. And then they can also present your name to law enforcement, again, posing as you. If, again, they have your driver's license or other identifying information, they could try to, again, pose as you. And then another thing that people don't think about is using your identity to open new leases or utility accounts or phone accounts, right? And they do this for a number of different reasons. One thing I'll share here is sometimes what they'll do is if they can take your identity, they could try to submit a change of address. So then now your mail gets funneled to a new location, and then they can continue the identity theft. With new leases, they're just trying to get a lease someplace physical where they could stay. And then, of course, they're not going to pay the rent. And so your credit will be ruined there. Same thing for utility and the phone accounts. Obviously, they want to open up something in your name so they could use the phone calls for nefarious reasons. So these are all the different common types of ways that identity thieves can use your identity. There are definitely more, but these are like the most common. Okay, let's talk about signs you might be able to recognize if you're a victim of a identity theft. So these things are like unexpected bills or collection calls for accounts that you didn't open, right? You're getting bills either through the email or text messages and by the way, I would always verify first. But let's just say you're getting something in the mail saying, hey, your bill is past due and you don't even recognize it. The best thing to do is research the company, go directly to their website. Don't click on any links. If you get an email saying you have an invoice that's overdue, don't click on the link. Don't reply back to the email. What you want to do is you want to contact the company directly. Go directly to their website and then tell them, hey, I got this bill that's overdue. Can I get more information about it, right? I don't remember opening this account, starting it at all. If there are unauthorized charges on your bank or credit card or other financial statements, if you are receiving credit cards that you didn't apply for, big red flag there, because they're going to enable for a credit card to be sent to you, they need your authorization. So obviously someone has been using your identity to create these cards, and maybe these credit cards know where you actually live, and instead of sending it to the identity thieves, they actually sent it to you. So you want to be aware of that. If you get any kind of denials for loans or credit, so if you're out there and you're trying to get a new credit card or trying to get a car loan, but suddenly you get denied, and because even though you know you have good credit, big red flag there. You want to definitely go back and check your credit report, make sure that someone is not using your credit or opening up loans and not paying those back. So that's a big red flag. Any kind of missing bills or mail, another one, right? So we talked about how thieves might have changed your mailing address. Again, they're trying to collect this information so they could use, they could not just continue the identity theft, but also use it for other things. And if you're missing a bill or other mail that you're expecting, you might have been a victim of mail theft. And again, that personal information is going to be used, right? Your utility bill might be used against you. The identity thief is using that utility bill to open up other accounts or pose as you in other things. Of course, any unfamiliar accounts or inquiries on your credit reports, and notifications from the IRS that you have more than one tax return. This actually happens quite a lot, where you are trying to submit your IRS, your income tax return. However, the IRS says you've already done it. That's a big red flag, and you have to go through a whole process to verify who you are and to inform the IRS that the income tax return that was filed was fraudulent, right? So these are a lot of different signs. There are usually more, but these are kind of the most common. So here's kind of the meat of the meat of the presentation, right? This is why you came. How to protect yourself from identity theft. I have a lot of different slides and a lot of great information. I do want to throw a reminder out there. I see some questions coming in. If you do have a question or comment, something you want to share, please feel free to put it into the Zoom's Q&A feature. I will be answering it in a live Q&A at the very end. And we are recording this webinar, and there will be slides, or these slides will be available to you. I'll send everyone who registered for this webinar a copy of the slides and a link to the webinar recording. So again, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. We'll answer them at the very end. All right, how to protect yourself from identity theft. So first thing I want to share, and we'll talk about this a little later in the webinar, is use the 6 layers of scam prevention. Very, very oftentimes, scammers will have some kind of scam to collect your identity or your personal information, your financial information. So they do this through, again, some kind of scam, and we'll talk about the different types of scams they may use. But the DFPI has developed this 6 layers of scam protection to, again, help prevent you from falling prey to these scams, which try to collect your personal information. Another thing is, don't click on any links in emails or messages, right? That's kind of a way for scammers to get their hooks into you, right? They try to get you to contact them, try to get you to get into their system, so that they can get you into that scam. Limit the personal information on social media, right? So limit what you share. You should not be telling individuals, of course, where you live, what you're doing. And so the story I like to share here is, in Southern California, there was a woman who was buying a house, and she's a first-time homeowner, so it's really not her fault. She didn't know any better, but she was very excited. So on social media, she put out that, hey, I'm buying a brand new house, closing very soon, right? And so she had this really happy social media post. Well, the scammers saw that she was closing on a house, and so they contacted her posing as her escrow company, and they said, hey, we need your down payment right now. Please wire your down payment to this number. And so she didn't know any better. She just assumed that was her escrow company. So she wired the down payment for her house to the scammers. And again, they only got this information because they saw it on her social media post. They knew that she was closing. They knew that she was probably going to have a down payment for her house. And unfortunately, she ended up losing the down payment for her house because she sent it off to the scammers. So limit the personal information you share in social media. It's not just names, phone numbers, and addresses. It could be something happening in your life, because scammers they see that and they're going to use it against you. So be very aware of that. Consider using a passphrase for family and friends. What is a passphrase? Well, it's kind of a challenge passphrase. The scam that's happening around right now is where scammers are using artificial intelligence to copy individuals' voices, right? And so they might call you or contacting you. They might be contacting you posing as a grandchild or a niece, nephew, some kind of relation, maybe a friend, because they've seen that friend on social media. They know that you guys are connected somehow. And they might be, it may not sound just like them, but it sounds close enough. And they might use some excuse like, oh, I'm having bad reception, or this is a different phone. And they'll say something like, I need you to send me money, or can you share me your personal information? And because it sounds like your family or friends, you might go ahead and share that information or give them money. And one way to get around this is if you have a challenge and passphrase. So the historical example I like to use in World War II, the Allies, when you're overseas and you're at night, you're doing patrol, and someone is approaching you, you don't know if they're friend or foe. The challenge is flash, and the correct passphrase is thunder. And so what would happen is if the Allies were on patrol, someone coming walking up to you in the dark, you would tell them halt, flash. And so the correct password is thunder. If they gave you the correct password, you know that they were friends. If they did know the password, then you might have to engage them at that point. And so the point being here is think about using a challenge passphrase for friends and family if you for like personal information or financial information. And of course, shred your documents, personal documents, financial documents, medical documents that you get in the mail. Before you throw them away, be sure to shred them. I actually use them I actually burn them. I use them for barbecuing. So that way, no one can go through your trash and steal that information. All right, let's talk about more methods on how to protect yourself from identity theft. So, of course, you want to regularly change your passwords. And this is more for like data breaches. If you use the same password everywhere, if their company becomes a victim of a data breach, now your username and password gets stolen. And if you don't change your password very often, you could be, scammers, identity thieves can get access to your other accounts. You also want to use complex passwords with like letters, numbers, and special characters. Again, scammers are using artificial intelligence to create passwords, not create, but just like guess passwords and passwords that you might use, right? Based on like your birth date or things that you like or prefer, maybe your favorite football team. So if you use more complex passwords, it's harder for them to use AI to generate those passwords, try to get into your accounts. Obviously, you want to use multi-factor authentication, so important. I used to be, a long time ago, I used to be lazy and I hated multi-factor authentication. But as I have matured and built more wealth, I realized that an extra 2 to 5 seconds of multi-factor authentication is completely worth protecting the assets that I built. So I think I'm a big proponent of it, and you should definitely use it. And this is a big one here. A lot of people don't think about this. Don't use the same username and passwords for all your accounts, right? And I've done this before. Again, early in my life and my career, it's very simple to use the same username and password everywhere. But think about this. And this has actually happened to an individual. The story I share is there was an individual, he shared his story. He had a MySpace account, a really old social media account, and he had abandoned it, but he had used the same passwords and usernames on all his accounts, all his social media accounts, all his emails, everything had the same username and password. Well, MySpace had a data breach, and the hackers were able to get his username and password, and they knew what email address he had associated with his MySpace account. So they tried the username and password, and lo and behold, they were able to access his emails. From there, they were able to access his bank accounts and all these other social media accounts. He ended up losing access to everything because once they got access to his accounts, they changed all the passwords and he couldn't get back in. So again, story here, and the moral story is don't use the same username and passwords for all your accounts. Use different ones. You could just change it up a little bit, right? 1 or 2 letters here and there, so that that it just changes between each one. Because again, when a company becomes a victim of a data breach, it's not if, but when a company becomes a victim of a data breach, your username and passwords are out there, and that makes all your other accounts vulnerable. So be careful there. You definitely want to secure your electronic devices. So of course, I know many of us do this. We use screen locks and login passwords. A big one here is you want to enable device tracking. So important. You have no idea how many times I have saved myself by enabling device tracking on my cell phone, and on other devices like iPads, tablets, that kind of thing. So important. Enable device tracking so that you can track your own devices. Okay. Some more tips on how to protect yourself from identity theft. You want to check your financial accounts regularly, and you want to dispute any unknown charges. You also want to check your credit reports regularly. Really, really important. You're allowed actually to check your credit reports once a week. You want to go to annualcreditreport.com, but you'll get a credit report from all 3 credit bureaus. So definitely want to check it regularly. You're looking for any kind of unknown credit accounts, loans that were open up in your name. And you also want to verify any kind of accounts that you've closed or any accounts that you've finished paying off is there. Place a credit freeze on your credit. If you're not using your credit, right? In other words, if you're not planning on getting a loan or opening up a new credit card, put a freeze on your credit. You'll need to go to each credit bureau to do that. But it's so important because, again, when you put a freeze on your credit, not even you will be able to open up a new credit card or account in your name unless you unfreeze that credit. And by the way, if you freeze your credit, you could still use your credit card, debit card normally. It's completely fine. It's just that no one will be able to open up a loan or account in your name. Consider only using a credit card. Credit cards are inherently more safe than debit cards. And I know some people will argue with me here, but the reality is when you use your debit card, the money is coming out of your account, right? So let's say you go out and you use your debit card for gas, and then 3 weeks later you find out that there was a skimming device, and the scammer is taking money out of your account, and you didn't check your financial accounts, so they've been withdrawing the money out of your accounts for a couple weeks. That's your money, right? And yes, you could dispute it, and yes, you'll get that money back eventually, but it's going to take time. And in the meantime, you might have bills that are due, you might have other financial obligations you got to cover, and you're out of it, right? However, if you use a credit card, same situation, right? You swiped your credit card at some gas station, and 2 weeks later, you check your financial statements, and it looks like all these other charges that you don't know about is happening. That money is the credit card company's money, and you will not have to pay it back if you put in a dispute. And so, again, credit cards are inherently more secure because the money is not coming out of your account. It's coming out of the credit card company's account. And again, you could put that dispute into place and they'll do the investigation for you. You can, again, not promoting or encouraging anything, but just letting you know that you can also subscribe to a paid service. There are many different types of paid services out there, and I highly encourage you that if you want to subscribe to a paid service that will protect your identity, do your research. Make sure it's a legitimate organization, that they have a lot of things behind them, that have good reviews, have a great reputation. Some of these paid services have guarantees, right? So they'll provide you with insurance in case you become a victim of identity theft. You can make a claim on that insurance so that they could pay for whatever losses that you might incur because of the identity theft. So if you are really afraid of identity theft, or maybe it's happened to you, or maybe you consider yourself to be a very highly likely to be a victim of identity theft, do your research. Check out if there's a paid service out there that might be able to help you. Okay, some more tips about how to protect yourself from identity theft. I told you this is a lot of great information. Limit where you store your credit card information online, right? If you do a lot of online shopping, and this might be a good thing if you don't store or save your credit card information for future purposes. Again, when those companies become a victim of a data breach, your payment information is out there. So again, if you also, by the way, just part of my budgeting webinar, we talk about trying to limit where you store your credit card information online, because that is a barrier for you to purchase items, right? Something to slow you down. Before you can actually pay for something, you got to break out your credit card, you got to type it in. So if it's not stored, it's not an easy click and pay thing. But yes, limit where you store your credit card information. You also want to delete any unused or old profiles or accounts, right? Remember, I was telling you about that individual with the MySpace account. If you have any kind of, again, social media accounts, if you have any other profiles out there, streaming profiles that you no longer use, it might be a good idea to ask them to delete the account. Also, delete any data associated with the account, so that if they become a victim of data breach, your information is not out there, right? Again, we talked about not sharing your personal or financial information with others, especially through a phone call or through messaging. I'm really paranoid about this, and I don't do it unless I'm in front of the person actually talking to them. I don't like to share my personal or financial information unless, like I said, it's in person. And finally, the story I share here, I want to share, and very recently too, limit how much ID and payment information you carry around. So here's my story and little moment of vulnerability here. I had my wallet stolen about a month ago, and long story short, what happened was I was shopping. I carry everything in my wallet, and when you do that, your wallet is giant. It's like it's a giant sandwich. Credit cards, IDs, social security card, medical cards, membership cards, everything, right? Debit cards, credit cards, everything was in there. And so it's great because I have everything I need. The problem is it's really big and thick, and I got to put it in my back pocket. And sometimes what I do is I take it out and I put it onto my grocery cart. Well, what happened was I turned around and I was just looking at something, and then when I turned back, it was gone, but I didn't notice it until I went to pay for my stuff. And so yeah, apparently someone just was actually walking behind me, and they just took it and they took off with it. So my wallet was stolen. And the lesson here, because I had everything in my wallet, is that you really want to limit what you carry with you. It's the equivalent of going out there with a book of all your passwords, right? All your personal information and passwords. That's what you do when you're going out there with like a purse or a wallet, and it has all your information. And so I spent basically a week going out there and basically replacing all, closing out accounts, getting new cards, having to go through the entire identity process. So I'm very familiar with this. And again, it makes a lot more sense that if you're just going shopping at one store, carry your driver's license, a debit card, a credit card, and just a little bit of cash. That's it. You don't need to bring your health information cards, your dental cards, your social security. You don't need all that. And that's the lesson that I've learned. I'm sharing it with you. Hopefully that helps you. Okay, so let's talk about what to do if you become a victim of identity theft. Because I'm here. This was me. What you want to do is you want to notify your financial institutions. You want to notify the DMV, any other organizations that have that are associated with the information you've lost. Right? You want to get new cards with new numbers. And I did this, and I did it. The mistake I did was I contacted my bank and I let them know I needed a replacement card. They sent me they sent me the card that I lost, right? It had the same payment, it had the same payment information, right? The same credit card numbers. And then I had to call them back, like, no. What I meant was my wallet was stolen. I need new credit cards with new numbers, because obviously the wallet thief, they have the same card that I do. And you guys just sent me the same card. If I activate this, they'll be able to use the card just like me. So be very careful there. You also want to set up fraud alerts and notifications wherever possible, right? Many banks offer fraud alerts, notifications if any transactions are done over a certain limit or at certain locations. So again, use those, take that advantage if you can. You want to review your bank and credit accounts carefully. I do that literally every night, because it's only been a month away. I don't know when they're planning to use my bank or credit card information, and I just want to make sure that I'm safe, that they're not just going to use it on weird transactions. We talked about freezing your credit. You want to go to each credit bureau. There's information right there. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. You have to go to each one, put a freeze on your credit so that they can't open up new accounts, new credit cards in your name. You could also place a free 1-year fraud alert by notifying one of the credit bureaus. Again, it makes it harder for someone to open up a new account in your name because the business, before they can open up a new credit card or give you a loan, they have to verify your identity before they open that account. Some more tips. Big one here, get an identity protection pin from the IRS. And there's a link to the link right there. What is an identity protection pin? That's basically a PIN number that the IRS gives you, and no one is going to be able to submit a income tax return in your name unless they have that PIN number. So really important, the IRS will give it to you, but they need to verify your identity first before they issue you that identity protection PIN. Again, if you're a victim of identity theft, it's so important. You also want to report, right? File a report. I filed a report to my local law enforcement. They were able to look at the surveillance camera and actually watch this guy as he was basically walking behind me until waiting for me to turn my back. Filing your police report does a lot of different things, especially if if you become a victim of identity theft. These identities might just not be targeting one person; they might be targeting a lot of different people. So if you submit a report, the police might be able to triangulate where that person is based off all these different other reports they might be getting about identity theft. Identity theft. Of course, you could always go to identitytheft.com and submit your reports there. You also want to get a free personalized recovery plan from identitytheft.gov. It's a website hosted by the Federal Trade Commission. Literally, it's a checkbox. They ask you how you lost your information, what information might be out there, and then they kind of give you a step-by-step process of things that you should consider doing and able to recover from identity theft. Okay, and then wrapping up here, accept any free credit monitoring services if a company offers it. This is usually in a data breach. You want to set up an e-verify account so you could lock your social security number. So again, when someone takes your identity, they can use your social security number if that's what they stole to, again, pose as you to start a new job. So you want to create that e-verify account with the Social Security Administration so that they can't do that. Also, if you get a lot of identity theft that's happening to you, in certain circumstances, the Social Security Administration will actually issue you a Social Security number, a new Social Security number. It's a long process, but you definitely do your research before you do that. And again, we talked about subscribing to a paid service. There are paid services out there that can help individuals recover from becoming a victim of identity theft, but you want to do your research. Okay, do your research. So there are also companies that take advantage of identity theft. So be sure that do your research and make sure the company is reputable before you go with them. All right, let's talk about the scams that scammers use to steal your identity or capture your information, your personal and financial information. Again, the biggest one out there by far is imposter scams. So individuals posing as like debt collectors or the government, right? So IRS, Social Security Administration, Medicare, scammers posing as utility company, your local utility company or law enforcement, or even financial institutions, right? These scammers posing as these individuals might ask you for a lot of personal information, again, trying to steal your identity, trying to get access to your accounts. There are investment scams, there are romance scams, there are tech support scams, and student loan scams. The big one I want to talk about real quickly is employment scams. I know there's a lot of layoffs that are happening out there, job losses that are happening out there. And so when you are applying to a job or a position or a posting on one of these listing services, make sure the company is legitimate. Very often, scammers can easily post fake job listings. And again, they're trying to capture your personal information, right? They might ask you, hey, here's an application. We need all this personal information, name, phone number, email. social security number, all this other information that they might use to, again, try to pose as you, opening accounts, getting access to your credit. So be very aware of that, and double check. Always double check. Go to the, if you're trying to apply to a job posting somewhere, go directly to the company's website, see if the job is listed there, and post directly to the job site or the company's website. Okay, so let's talk about how to protect yourself from scams, right? Again, scammers are using all these different scams to try to collect your information, capture your personal financial information. Again, the DFPI, we call this the 6 layers of scam prevention. The first layer to protect yourself is do not respond to scammers, right? Ignore anyone who is trying to contact you through telephone, computer, emails, text messages. You get an unknown number from someone calling you. You don't just hang up, just let it go to voicemail. Oftentimes when you hang up, that tells the scammer on the other side that there's someone alive and they'll try to call you back. They might hand off your phone number to their scam network and you're going to get constant calls. So again, don't respond to scammers, right? Let it go to voicemail. Any kind of text messages you get that says click here or call this number or reply back, ignore those, right? Go directly to the source. And that leads us to layer 2 protection, which is do your research. You want to look for the red flags. You want to verify information, check credentials. If someone is calling you posing as local law enforcement, say, hey, thank you. Let me get your name and badge number, and then call the police department directly and say, hey, Officer John Smith, badge number 1234, just contacted me. Is this legitimate, right? Again, go directly to the official source, the company or the website. You also want to take your time. Scammers love creating this sense of urgency. What they want to do is get you into this tunnel vision. And when you're in that tunnel vision, right, they're creating that sense of urgency. You got to do this now. We need this information. You're going to miss out on the red flags. So take your time. Ignore anyone who is threatening you, giving you limited time opportunity, telling you not to share information with others, asking you for personal financial information. Just tell them, wait, I want to think about this first, right? Give me some time. All right. Also, okay, layer 4, do not share your information or limit what you share. Again, we talked about limiting what you share on social media, on websites, on emails. If you have an email account, don't upload your tax return to it, because if your email gets hacked and now they have your tax return, right? Sign up forms, online shopping, phone apps. Very oftentimes when you download a phone app to use, it has all these terms and conditions. If you don't read those terms and conditions, you might be giving that app access to your contact information, maybe financial information, ability to track you. Maybe you're giving it access to your microphone and camera, and it could turn it on and listen to your conversations. So be very careful. Check those terms and conditions when you download the app and before you start using it. Here's another big one. We want you to talk to another layer of protection here. Talk to someone you trust, right? Very oftentimes when you talk to someone else, you're bringing in another perspective, someone who could point out the red flags. If you're in that tunnel vision that the scammer got you into, you are going to miss those red flags. But if you talk to someone you trust, bring in that additional perspective, outside perspective, they might be able to point out the red flags that you miss, right? And then finally, the last layer of protection, stay vigilant, right? We've talked about regularly checking your financial accounts, regularly checking your credit reports. Another big one is depositing important mail directly to the post office. Say your tax return, if you're mailing it in, go directly to the post office. Your medical information, financial information, if you're filing it some way, submitting something back, go directly to the post office, put it in. Mail theft is a big thing, and you could lose not just your information, but your identity that way. Another big one here is don't just close your internet browser. Make sure to log out of websites, especially if you're using a public computer or public access somewhere. And then, of course, just a reminder, you want to report the incident. So report it to local authorities like your police, your district attorney's office. You also want to work with your state authorities. You can report it to individuals like us, the DFPI, the DCA is the Department of Consumer Affairs, and the AG is the Attorney General's office. And then there's federal authorities. So like the FBI, they have their IC3 website. That's the Internet Crimes Complaint Center. And of course, the FTC has the Report Fraud website. So please go there and submit scams and reports of fraud and identity theft. With that, I do want to remind everyone that the DFBI is here to protect you and your community. Please contact us if you observe or have been a victim of a scam, financial fraud, abusive business practice like predatory lending. If you observe elderly financial abuse, let us know. We work closely with APS, Adult Protective Services. And of course, let us know about any violations of California financial laws. And if you have questions about financial products, professionals, or a company, there's our number there. It is 866-275-2677. And then we also have a link where you can submit a complaint. Okay, with that, we are here at the Q&A. Again, a big reminder, if you do have any questions, please feel free to submit it to the Zoom's Q&A feature. I'm going to try to go through all of these. A lot of great questions right now. Let's jump right into it. First question, do we get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation at the end? The answer is yes. I will be following up this webinar with to everyone who registered to the webinar, I have their email address, and I will be following up with an email that'll have attached copy of these slides, and you are more than welcome to share these slides with anyone and everyone. And there'll also be a link to the webinar recording, so you can rewatch it and share it with others. So great question, thank you very much. Would you be able to share more information on AI fraud? Actually, thank you. It's a great question. And we actually had a whole webinar last month talking about AI scams and AI fraud. Please check out our YouTube channel to rewatch that webinar. It was a great webinar. And I believe we partnered with Assemblywoman Kati Petrie-Norris on that one as well. So thank you. And looks like you shared an article, Imposter Uses AI to Impersonate. Yes. Just in short, yes. Scammers are using artificial intelligence in many different ways. We talked about voice cloning, right? Using software to clone the voice of loved ones, friends, family, to try to, again, capture to get you to share your personal financial information. And they're also using it in many other different ways, right? To jailbreak passcodes, also known as brute force passwords, that kind of thing, and other different ways. So thank you for sharing the article. You want to be aware of that and check out the webinar that we did last month. Also, there has been scams with rent as well. Yes, my friend was looking for a rent on Zillow, and she reached out to a person to view the property, but it was actually a scam. Yes, rental, and not just rental, but home sale scams are out there. And I'd say a couple of years ago, they were big, huge, happening a lot. They've died down a little bit, but they're still around. And it's very, very easy for scammers to post a rental scam or a fake rent posting or a fake home sale posting. And yes, they're going to do things like say, hey, we want a deposit before we could show you the property, or we want your personal information, right? Your name, phone number, email, before we can show you that property. And so you want to be very careful of that. You might even consider creating like a throwaway email address when you're replying to those listings, just in case that they are fake and scammers are using it, again, to try to collect your information. So thank you for sharing the information. That is definitely a thing. Will the webinar be recorded? Yes, it will be recorded and shared. What are the 6 layers of scam prevention? We just went through that, right? Layer 1, don't reply back, don't contact the scammers. Layer 2, do your research, verify information. Layer 3 is you want to take your time, right? Slow down, take your time. Layer 4 is do not share or limit what information you share to others, online. Layer 5 is talk to someone you trust. And layer 6 is stay vigilant, right? Always check your accounts, your credit reports, that kind of thing. So great. Thank you very much for asking the question. Paid services are not regulated. You shouldn't recommend something unless you provide more specifics. Do your research, not enough. Yes, many paid services are not regulated. I'm not recommending any services I just want to provide the option out there, right? There are services out there that help monitor your credit, that help individuals recover from identity theft. But there's also a lot of services that are not reputable, right? And these are not regulated. And I'm not recommending any of this, but what I'm saying is it is an option. And I want you to do your research, especially if you believe that you're very vulnerable to identity theft, right? Maybe one of these paid services might be able to help you. I will say, my wife, when her purse was stolen, and she had her purse in the car, someone smashed the window, took her purse. She went ahead and subscribed to a very expensive pay program. Again, not going to tell you what it is because I'm not endorsing it. And I was against it as well. I said, well, I'm not sure if paying $30 a month is worth the cost. But what I will say is she did get notified very quickly several times when the individual was trying to open up a lease in her name. They also tried to open an account in her name. So it did work. But I will say it is expensive. So do your research, make sure it is going to work for you. So thank you for the comment. What do you think about passkeys and password managers? So my own personal opinion, I use passwords. I'm not a fan of password managers. I know some people that use them and they use them very well. Again, not endorsing or recommending, but I would say do your research. If it makes sense for you, great, fantastic. I have my own password. I have my own password scheme that I use. And so that works for me. But I would say find the scheme that works for you. My dad, he's old school. He puts all his usernames and passwords in a book. And I tell him all the time, like, Dad, this is like the worst case scenario for you. If it gets stolen, if the house burns down, you lose the whole thing, right? But it works for him, right? And so it's better than having the same username and password for all his accounts, which would make him highly vulnerable. So yeah, find what works for you and what level of risk you're willing to take. Great question. Thank you. Should I get an IRS PIN even if I am not an ID theft victim? It is up to you. Again, not endorsing or recommending, but if you are very concerned about someone submitting a tax return on your behalf, get an IRS PIN. It literally took 5 minutes. I went on the IRS website. They knew who I am because I submit my income tax returns electronically almost every year. So I was able to verify who I am. And then I just went to the IRS PIN page, requested it, and then they emailed it to me. So very easy to do. And if you're concerned about it, go ahead and get an IRS PIN. Don't lose it though, because if you lose your IRS PIN, then it's going to be very hard for you to submit a income tax return without it. So be careful there. Great question. Thank you so much. Wow, these are a lot of great questions. I'm going to fly through these as quick as I can. E-Verify account with SSS only after identity theft or for everyone. You could do it. Anyone could do it. Anyone can get an E-Verify account with the Social Security Administration. Again, to lock down your Social Security number so that if someone, including yourself, if you're looking to get a new job, enable for them to move forward with that, to check your Social Security number, they need to verify your identity. So yes, you definitely could do it. You don't have to be a victim of identity theft. You just do it on your own. Great presentation. I believe it will happen to all of us at some point. Yes. I never thought I would be a victim of identity theft, but here I am. So it's so important to minimize the impact and recover quickly using tactics. Absolutely. I think this is a lot of great information. Hopefully it helps you recover or prevent yourself. You're absolutely right. With as much prevention as you can, nothing is 100% proof. And so hopefully this information helps you. Next question. Are there any legitimate tools that can be used to reduce the number of calls and texts we get from scams? Not really. As long as you have yourself on the do not call registry, that'll stop telemarketing calls. But of course, scammers don't care about the do not call registry. The best thing to do, there are actually some apps, some phone apps out there that you can download and help you try to filter some of these calls. Again, not endorsing or recommending, but look into it. It might be able to help you. I know for sure many of the telecom industry companies out there are trying to filter all these for you. I know we're right at 11, so I'm going to wrap up some of these questions real quick. But with that, I do want to remind everyone we do have a webinar coming up next month. It is our practical budgeting webinar. It's a workshop. We're going to go through a whole spreadsheet, talk about different budgeting methods, talk about building an emergency fund. So if you're interested in that, please register. And also, if you're interested, we have a monthly newsletter that we email to everyone. It's got promotions that, such as webinars like this. It's got a list of other events, a lot of great financial education information. And then, of course, there's a link to our YouTube channel where this webinar is being recorded and will be published later on today. Okay, answering the questions, I'm going to try to get to all these very close at the end. Which regulator oversees Medicare IDT? Which regulator oversees real estate IDT attempts? I do not know, but let me find out and I'll get back to you about that. Real estate ID theft. So medical ID theft and then real estate ID theft attempts. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll find out more information. It's a great question though. Are there any agencies or companies that help someone through all this if your identity is stolen? I think the best place to go is to go to identitytheft.gov. It's hosted by the Federal Trade Commission. Again, it's a step-by-step process that gives you tips on where to go and how to get started to recover. That's kind of the best place you can go. I know some senior centers might have volunteers that can help you, especially if you have a hard time calling or getting online or searching things. There are volunteers out there that can help you through identity theft or protecting yourself from identity theft. So, great question. Is there any communication or requirements for social media platforms to make it easier to remove scam postings or profiles? No, social media is highly unregulated. So there's really no requirements for them to do anything. They try, I know they do try to limit scam postings and scam profiles. And one of the things you can do if you see something that is a scam profile or scam posting is to report it as a scam. And I've seen it work, but there's really no requirement for them to do it. So that's unfortunate. Good question, though. Can you provide any guidance for stolen social media accounts? This actually happens a lot. Believe it or not, when I go out and do resource fairs or workshops, I do get a lot of people coming up and ask about how they could recover their stolen Facebook account or stolen social media profile. And every social media profile has their own process. You just have to Google it and find the link, and there is a process. But unfortunately, from what I've heard, it's not only a long process, but many times it's not successful. So that's the best guidance I could give you. I don't know enough about it. What I can say again is to make complex passwords and usernames so that someone can't just capture or take control of your social media profiles. Great question. Okay. Will the 3 credit agencies allow us to freeze our credit without a police report? Yes, the answer is yes. You do not need a police report. You could just go to each credit bureau. You have to verify your identity, but then afterwards you can put a credit freeze on your accounts. Don't need a police report. Don't need anything else because it's your credit, and you can totally freeze it for free and very easily. Our password saving sites like Google Safe from hackers. I would, again, my own personal thoughts here. I don't think anything is safe from hackers. I don't think anything is ever safe from hackers. So it's not a matter of if, it's more a matter of when. So whether you're using Google to manage all your passwords, it's not a matter of if they can hack it. It's a matter of when will they be able to hack it, right? So that's how I feel. And if you feel safe using Google or other platforms to save your passwords, power to you, right? Great. Good question, though. Okay, coming up to the end here. And again, if you all have to leave, feel free to. This webinar is being recorded. We will publish to a YouTube channel, and you could listen in on all these Q&As later. What are your thoughts on best practices for tech support when devices must be turned into the provider? Are you aware of any legal requirements for vendors to protect data on devices? I am not aware of any legal requirements of vendors to protect data on devices. I don't know. I don't believe so. There's any requirements. Um, but the best practice you definitely want to do is you want to wipe your, let's say you're turning in your phone, right? You definitely want to wipe it. Wiping it is doing like a factory reset. That's kind of what the best thing to do. After that, you are handing off your phone to a company, and for the most part, again, I would say there's no 100% guarantee. It is absolutely possible that when you hand your phone off to the company, you're trading it in or something, that the new user could actually take your phone, try to revert the factory reset and try to capture your personal information. It could absolutely happen. Nothing is 100% guaranteed. So I know for sure because my wife has traded her phone in before, and we had a factory wipe it before we factory reset it before we give it back to the vendor. So that's kind of the best thing you could do. Of course, pull out any hard drives or any kind of removable data memory chips, but that's kind of really it. Hopefully that helps you. I was informed by the IRS my identity was stolen to gain employment. I informed local police, but they did not go after this type of crime. Yeah, in my situation too, I didn't have a lot of money in my wallet, and the local police, was not very motivated on going after the criminal, even though there was video footage and they saw the person. They had a good picture of him. I think they got a partial license plate off his car too. They were not very motivated to go after him. This is one of those things, right? And I talked to the police officer. He was very friendly. He was so cool. And he was just saying, hey, listen, we just don't have the resources to track down all these. It might sound simple, but they have their resources tied up in other things. So for me, I know it was a crime, definitely a crime, theft. And for me, it's a big hassle, but my mistake, and I learned from it. And I'm sorry that your identity was stolen. And I would not rely on local police to go after that type of crime. Yes. So protect yourself for sure. For social media accounts, you lose access to your own digital intellectual property. Yes, yes. Again, very often people come to me and tell me about losing all their pictures, their contact information off their social media profiles. So again, use secure passwords, different passwords for different accounts. The PIN number the IRS assigned you will be different each year. Yes. So at the beginning of the year, they will send you a new one every year. Yes. Great comment. Thank you for sharing. Next question. My emails are in the dark web already. What can they do? Depending on what's in your email. If your emails are already on the dark web, they could do a lot. If you just have generic emails, that's just hi, whatever, good. They won't be able to take too much except for they have your email information. But very often, I know individuals correspond. They have a lot of personal information, addresses, phone numbers, contact information, sometimes financial information. I know people who have emailed their tax returns to their real estate agent or their loan officer, and that's a big red flag. I tell them, delete that, please, because your email with the attachments, your tax return attachments, are in your email account. And if someone takes over your email account, if there's a data breach, now someone has access to your tax returns, which is all your information, social security information, and, earnings, all that. So be careful, right? What can they do? It really depends on what information they have in your email. So hopefully you're okay. Hopefully you don't have too much to share. Will the Q&A responses also be included when we review this webinar online later? Well, we're recording it, so hopefully you can see these responses. Hopefully this will be able to help you. Okay, last question. There are a few electronic recyclers in Orange County that say they wipe data. Can they be trusted? I don't know who electronic recyclers are, but there may be certain electronic recyclers that will definitely destroy your data. And the instance I give here is there are certain electronic recyclers that have what's called a hard drive shredder. So if you have like a computer, they'll pull out the hard drive and put it in the shredder, and there's no way of getting the data after that. I know some places use like a giant magnetron. It's just an electronic magnet that just wipes basically destroys everything on the electronic device. So hopefully they're using those kind of methods, physical destruction. to kill any data. But just using software to wipe the data is not necessarily 100%. There's no 100% guarantee, so be very careful when you're turning in or recycling electronics. Good question. What about PayPal online instead of using credit cards? So if you're safe, if you feel PayPal is safe, feel free to use it. Again, not recommending, not endorsing, but again, if you feel like using PayPal is a great way instead of using credit cards, and it makes sense for you, go for it. I hope it works out great for you. Okay, what about using internet? Last question before we go. What about using an internet server box in your house that becomes obsolete and we get the new one? What to do with the old box? The internet server box. So I'm guessing you're saying like your internet service, like whatever service you have. It doesn't really store information, right? It'll store your IP address, but it should not store personal data. Hopefully, it should not. And you can always turn it in, or if you feel like you're not safe with that, don't turn it in. Just keep the device and destroy it yourself if you can. So thank you very much. Have I heard about scams with cards, cell phone wallets? I have not. I know about digital wallets. So cell phone wallets, I'm not particularly sure about. You might be thinking about like Google wallets or like Apple Pay, that kind of thing. And very oftentimes, scammers will set up a Google wallet or Apple Pay and try to accept payments that way. If anyone is asking you for payment by Apple Pay or Google Wallet, that's a big red flag. Just be very aware, do your research there. So thank you very much. That's all the questions we could take. You have been fantastic and great. The questions so engaging. Again, a big special thank you for joining the webinar. Another big special thank you to Assemblywoman Connie Petrie-Norris for helping partner us on this webinar. And I hope you all have a great, fantastic day. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you so much. Goodbye.